Hello there, welcome to another Easy as Accounting Software video presentation. In this video presentation I want to discuss a little bit more about printing of invoices to the hard drive, to a printer or to a PDF printer. There are significant differences in the process. It is quite simple but can be a little bit confusing. I think once I go through this video you will fully understand exactly what the process is, and you can make up your mind which is the correct method to use for your business. Where I want to start is I just want to have a quick look right now. If I click here and we have a look at an invoice, this is your standard typical invoice. If you were to print this to your printer, this is how it's going to look. This is the layout that's going to be on there. As you can see, I've created a dummy business here called the Ant Eaters Organization. They're currently asking for some more ant hills so that they can eat these termite mounds. So that's your standard invoice when it's printed. Now if I jump into the program here and I click on invoices and we have a look at this invoice that I created, when you click this icon or this icon, it will send your invoice direct to the printer. That's pretty obvious. And when you click here you get to see how it's going to look when printed, which is exactly the same thing that I showed you a minute ago. Now what happens if I click print to file for emailing? You'll notice that here on this particular invoice there is currently no logo on the invoice. When you print to a file, it will always print without a logo, regardless of whether or not you turn the logos on. Now I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. If I jump back over here and I go down here and I turn these logos on, I'm going to turn the logos on. I'm going to jump out here and I'm going to let you see when I print this invoice, it is now going to appear with this particular logo. You see it's a bit messy because it was from a previous instruction. So it's going to print with this particular logo on the invoice. If I print to a file and I go to open that file to attach to an email, you will see, regardless of what you've done, regardless of you turning on the logos, it will always print to file without a logo on there. This is the restriction in itself with the software. Okay, even though I've got logos on, you see this here? This is your basic printing to your hard drive, which means that you can print that to your hard drive and you can attach that to emails. It is one way of distributing your invoices or your quotes or your purchase orders, etc., to your customers. In today's world, it's becoming business practice to send invoices, etc., through email. Go back a few years ago, wasn't that long ago actually, that emails for this sort of purpose, it was frowned upon to send that. People still wanted it hard copy in the mail. Now it's just becoming quite an industry standard to do it. That's why this was introduced by EasyAs, to save it to the hard drive so they can attach it to an email. The only drawback is you lose your logos. What if you wanted a way to achieve this with your logo on there? There is a way. If you have a look on the website, if you jump to the home page, you see, you come down the bottom, you see we've got a section for video guides, and you've got two other icons here. One is to print your standard, let me just click that. This here is printing to a file on your hard drive, which is discussing exactly what I've just talked about, the RTF file. It prints without your logo. The other one is printing to a PDF. Now what you need to do is come to the website, have a look at this printing to PDF. If you install a PDF printer on your machine, it is free. You can go to this particular location and grab their Do PDF printer. This is outside of the program. This has nothing to do with us. It just means that, like you attaching a printer to your computer, this is installing a particular software into your computer, and for all intents and purposes, Windows is treating that like a printer. So instead of sending it to a printer, it sends it to a file on your hard drive, which then means that you lose no logos, you lose none of your graphics. It's exactly the same way it would appear if you printed it to your printer. This is a great program, folks, and this is available free of charge from Do PDF, and I advise you to go grab it if you want to print. Now, just to give you a bit of a brief look, if you jump down the bottom of the page here, it clearly says, this is an example of a standard invoice when printed. This is when you print to your printer. Pretty natural. Come down here and well, this isn't really a good example, is it? It doesn't show the logos. Okay, but it does show you down the bottom here. Even without the logo, you'll see you've lost some of your layout. See the layout? If you go to a PD, if you go and use the RTF method, saving to disk, you lose some of that layout. See all this layout here? It's quite nice. It looks nice and fancy. you lose that layout when you print to an RTF for saving and attaching to emails. So that's the value of it. When you print to a PDF, you keep and retain all of your graphic information. Okay, I'm going to jump back to the program and I'm going to let you see that. Here is where you'd select that. If we installed the Do PDF, additionally, by default, my computer is always printing to my brother printer. Whenever I want to print a report to PDF printer, I have to come into here on the main screen, printer, this icon. I have to change it to PDF. That changes the default setting of my computer. It will also change it for the invoices as well. If I jump into the invoices, it's changed it here. So the default setting is PDF printer. Okay. Now I can change it back here. Both places in the program does the same thing. On the invoice screen, we give you the extra facility of having access to this directly, because when you're printing invoices, you don't want to be jumping out of here all the time, changing this, jumping back in if you're doing 2 or 3 different things at once. So we give you that ability to change that directly from the invoice screen. Now, if I was to print this to the PDF printer and I click this icon, it then jumps up with this screen. It says, you want to print to PDF? It doesn't number it for me, so I have to number it. I'm going to leave that without a number so I can show you. Okay. If I jump to the hard drive, you will see the file I just printed. When it prints to a PDF, it will automatically open up that invoice for you if you have Adobe Acrobat installed. And if you go to the website, it will tell you how to get that as well. There's 2 separate programs. One creates your PDF and one reads the PDF. The PDF printer doesn't read the PDF. You have to install Adobe Reader to read the PDF. Bit of a process, but in today's world, 99% of people have PDF readers installed on their machine, because that is how a lot of documents are distributed nowadays. So the chances are you will have it already installed. Okay, so this is an example of the exact file. When we printed it to the PDF, you would attach this to your invoice. So your client will receive this. Instead of printing to an RTF file, instead of getting this, loss of graphics, no logo on top of the invoice, folks. He doesn't receive a logo. But when you change this here to your PDF printer and you print your normal icons up top here, it will save to the hard drive and you won't lose any of your logo layout or presentation. So it means that when you go to attach your invoice in an email, you would attach that file. The only thing you need to remember is that when you actually print to file, you need to give it a number, because always it's going to give it this number or a similar report, because the program of EasyAs has something in excess of 80 different reports that it prints, and you don't get to see this. You don't know what it's doing. It just does it automatically for you, because the last thing you want to do is confused by 80 different reports. You click an icon, it prints it, it knows what you want. Because of this, the Do PDF printer is trying to print it to your hard drive by the name of the report, and that makes no sense for you. You don't want that, so you'd probably change it to whatever number. In this case, invoice 22. If the invoice was called invoice number 22, you would change it invoice 22. You don't have to put the PDF on the end. You could just delete that if you wanted to. The Do PDF would automatically put that back for you, so don't be too worried if you delete it. So we're going to call it invoice 22. We click OK. It will save that to your hard drive, and it's exactly the number invoice 22. So when you email it, that's what you would attach. Right, that was what this invoice was about. It was to save a little bit of confusion that came about recently, and we decided to do a quick video presentation so you understand the differences between printing to an RTF and printing to a PDF on your computer. The only other thing I quickly want to point out is if you go to, say, your expense screen, I might as well point this out now, and you printed this report, because we have changed the default setting to PDF printer, it's automatically going to try to save this report to PDF as well. Now, if you wanted it to print to the printer, you don't have a facility on this screen to change it back to your printer. You have to go in and change it here. You'd change it here, and it would change the default setting for the program, for Windows actually, back to, so when you click this, it will send it to your actual printer itself. I just wanted to point that out.